So Google Drive Essentials, I believe with all my heart that your Google Drive should be the center of all things Google for you. It makes it so much easier, so much more organized, and it's just one of those things where if you get into the habit of it, it's like you'll think, how did I ever get by not doing it this way before? So that's why I thought this was so important to go over the things that I'm going to go over with you, because I really think it will help you. So first of all, with Google Drive, I know that I've said this before, so if you've done it, probably any of my sessions, I say this every time, but I set certain websites to pop up automatically when I open Chrome, and my Google Drive is one of them, right? So I choose the Marshall County District site, my email, my Google Drive, and Otis. Every time I open up Chrome, those 4 websites pop up. I used to have Infinite Campus up there, but honestly, now that I'm out of the classroom, I don't go to Infinite Campus a lot. So I just went into my settings and I changed those. But my Google Drive will always be on my startup websites to pop up. So that's how much I love it. I know that you're familiar enough with Google Drive. I'm not going to go over navigation and stuff like that with you on this, but I am going to just show you ways to make it work better for you. So this is my drive. And of course, you have the quick access up here. Then you have a folder system here and then all your files. So I'm going to start talking to you about the folder system because I think that's the key to making Google Drive what it should be for you. So I encourage you to take a few minutes and create your folder system. So I use there, if I open any of these folders, I'll open this one just to show you. I have folders within folders. So that's my digital learning coach. And then within that, I have folders and folders and folders, right? So I encourage you to do that. But just to get started, so you're not overwhelmed, just kind of do your basics. So I would do like each of your classes have a folder. If there's something you're in charge of, like FBLA, I was the advisor for it. So I put it in there. Anything Pear Deck I have in there. I have classes that I've taught, listed. So start there with ones you're going to need, and then you can always add to them later. So to add a new folder, you're just going to click this new button, and folder is the very first option there. So you just click new and then folder. When you do that, you have the opportunity to name it right off the bat. So give it a good name that you will recognize. So talking about naming, they're listed in here in alphabetical order. And here's a little trick that I use. I put a number in front of the ones that I use most often, right? So because numerically, these are going to come first. If I didn't, digital learning coach would be, lost somewhere right beside digital literacy, which they look almost exactly alike. So I got that confused a lot. So give it a number, and that pushes it to the beginning of your folder system. So when I was in the classroom, I taught digital literacy. It had a 1 beside it. And I taught principles of marketing. It had a 2. And then I think FBLA had a 3. My huddle, I still have it actually as 5. So those, I had 5 folders that I use most often, and I wanted them to be at the front of the pack here. So to rename one, like I did, I took the one off digital literacy, really easy. You just right click on it and you go to rename and take the one off or add the number so that it'll be at the beginning. I also love color coding them. So again, if you got a lot of them that you use a lot, change the color on them and it just makes it another quick way to grab it. So you're going to just right click again and go to change color. And there's a whole color palette here that you can choose from for your folder. So again, quick organization, naming your folders, and then again, numerically, we'll put them up here at the beginning. So while I'm talking about folders, some applications that you use create a folder for you automatically, and you don't even know it's there sometimes. For example, Google Classroom, if you have a Google Classroom, it automatically creates a folder for you. So you're going to see one in there. Screencastify does that. So here is my Screencastify. It automatically created that. So if you are in your Google Drive and you're like, I never created that folder, it's probably because the application created it for you. So if you see any that you don't remember creating, but it's something that you use. Don't delete it because it's probably got files in there that you might need later. On my folders, if you see some that have this little arrow in the corner, that means that they are a shared with me folder, and I've just created shortcuts for them to be in my main drive. So these are folders that I use a lot that I got tired of going to my shared with me and finding them. So I created shortcuts for those folders to put them in my main drive. And I'll actually show you that in a minute when we get to the shared with me folder. So you've created your folders, you've named them and numbered them just right. You've got their colors, right? So the next thing you want to do is you want to move your files into the correct folders that you've got down here. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to do that pretty quickly. And like all things Google, there are probably, 4 or 5 ways to do one thing. I'm going to show you my 2 favorite ways. If you've got another way that you already like doing, go with that. But here are some good little tricks for you to use. First of all is drag and drop, right? It can't get much simpler than that. So here's my Bitmoji classroom. So let's say I want it to go in one of my files here. I can just click on it. Notice it turns light blue down there in the bottom around the name, and I can pick it up and move it. And you can see that I'm actually moving it. And then when I get over a folder that I can drop it in, that folder is highlighted in blue. And I would just let go and drop it in any one of those. Okay, so drag and drop a single file, super easy. You can just get pretty quick at it. Just zoom them up there and drop them in. So let's say next that you have a whole row or a whole 2 rows or a whole, slew, right, is an official word, a whole slew of files that you need to move into one folder. You can select them all at once by clicking the first one in the series, holding down the Shift key. Notice it's turned light blue, okay? Hold down the Shift key and then click the last one in the series. And then notice all of these have turned light blue, right? So that means they're all selected. So then you just grab one of them and you start pulling and see how it's got a little 10 beside that? That means I'm moving 10 files to the same folder, okay? So really quickly, you can do that. So let's say that I want all of these, but I don't want Bitmoji Classroom, but then I want all of these, right? So you can click that one, hold down Shift, grab that one, or I actually hit Control. Control will let you select non-adjacent files. Okay, Shift will do everything in between and what you selected. Control will do non-adjacent. So I've selected this one. I'm going to hold down Control, select that one, hold down Control and select that one. I'm going to skip this one, but I'm going to hold down Control again and click that. And so notice now just these 4 are selected and it did skip that one. So then I grab one of them and now it's moving those 4 anywhere I want. Okay, so that's drag and drop with single file, using Shift and using Control. All right, another way to do it is you can right click and you can go to Move To, and then you get this little, menu kind of, and you can choose any of your folders that you want to move it to. All right, so there's 2 ways to move files into your folders. So it'll be worth your while to take a few minutes to create your folder system just how you like it and drag all of these files into a place that you can find them easily. Okay. A couple of the next reasons why I love Google Drive and I think that everything you do should start here is first, your waffle is here, right? So if you're in your Google Drive, you can always bounce off and go to any of the Google apps from here, okay? So I love that about it because the waffle's just right there for you. The second reason I love it is because I know that you can go to like slides.google.com and it'll pull up Google Slides. But if you do that, it doesn't save that slide into any particular place. It's just out here in your drive somewhere. So if you want to create a Google slide for like your digital literacy class, you open the class folder and then you go to New Google Slide and it's going to put it in that folder already, right? So you don't have to move it later. So if you just get used to going to, if it's like, okay, we're working in Word and digital literacy, so I'm going to open up my Word folder and I'm going to go to New and start, a new Google Doc. Then it's going to be started and saved already in the place where it belongs. So you can only do that from Google Drive. I know that you can get to Google Sheets and Google Docs by just typing it in. But again, it doesn't put it where it belongs, and that's going to be an extra step for you to move it later. So just going from your Google Drive and just beginning where it belongs will make your life easier. Okay, so I have a feeling the next thing I show you maybe, like I feel like when I do these tech sessions, there's like one thing that everybody's like, oh my gosh, I never knew that was there. That's a game changer. I think the next thing I'm going to show you might be that for you, hopefully. So even my Google Drive is very organized, right? But I still lose files. And I'm like, oh, for whatever reason, it's not where I thought it was, or I can't find it, or it's not quite named what I thought it was named and I can't remember. So this is a game changer, a lifesaver, however you want to put it. It's this search in Drive. So you can, of course, just type there. And if you think it was something about, I don't know, I cannot even think of a word, Marshall. Okay, then anything with Marshall is going to pull up. So that's an okay way to find one. You might luck up and find it if you can remember, what the name of the file is. Here's the one that you're going to love. To see this little arrow, it's just so inconspicuous over here. If you click it, okay, this is going to be the game changer. It's called Advanced Search, all right, but it's really just save your life search. Here's why. Most of the time when you're looking for a file, even if you can't remember the name, you remember that it's a Google Sheet, or I know it was a Google Doc, or I know it was a Google Slide. Look, the very first option is what type of file are we looking for? Okay, so if you click that, first of all, look at all these options. Or if you know it was a video that you're looking for, you can filter out everything but videos. So first of all, usually that's all I need, to get me the file. But let's say it's a doc. It was a Google Doc that you can find. If you know the owner of the Google Doc, you can search for a person. Like if you remember, I know that like Miss McCoy sent it out, so I know it's from her, or I know if, my friend so-and-so shared it with me, then you can look for the owner and you can just type a specific person, just type it in. If you know that you're the owner, right, you can search for it. Or if you just know that you're not the owner, someone shared it with you, but you can't remember who, or you don't know who sometimes, you can do not owned by me. Also, look, has the words. So look, enter the words found in the file, not in the file name, in the file. So you can really get creative with how you find documents in here. Date modified, if you know that you were just working on it yesterday, but it's not in your quick access and you can't remember, right? You can click on that. So just lots of ways that you can really hone in on the file that you're looking for that's somewhere in your Google Drive and you just can't get a hold of it. I use this probably, maybe not every day, but every other day. I'm using this advanced search just because I don't want to waste my time, looking for a file. So I promise you, y'all, don't forget that little bitty arrow right there. And even if you only use, I know it was a spreadsheet, so I'm just going to search my spreadsheets. That narrows it down so much, okay? So promise me that you'll use the advanced search because it is awesome. Okay, so advanced search is a great way to find specific files that you're looking for. Another way, if there are files that you use all the time, okay, like I work on my Tech Time working slides all the time. I'm always pulling them up. Or if there's just something that you work on a lot, you can star them, okay? And when you do that, it's kind of like your favorites in Google Drive. That will put it in your starred file over here. And here are all, I don't have many. And I think that's important because, it's kind of like if you highlight everything on a page, nothing is highlighted on the page. So that's the same concept here. If you star everything, then your starred folder becomes as messy as your Google Drive. So only star the things that you really, really want super quick access to that might not show up on your quick access bar. So just starred feature, it's there for you. I love the feature again, but I don't use it willy-nilly. I really pick the ones that I, want to do quickly. and not have to search for. So that's your starred folder. And to do that, let me go back. You can, again, there's many ways to do this. You can right click on one and you can go add to starred, super easy. If you open one, I can't show you right now because I'm only doing desktop, but if your file is open, there's a little button at the top that you can just star it. And it'll put it in your starred folder. So that's a great quick way to keep a few files set apart that you use most often. Okay, share settings. So you know that docs and slides and stuff have share settings, and when the default is that they're restricted to just you, and then you have to go in and, switch them to Marshall County users, or anyone with the file can view it or open it or edit it or whatever. Folders have the very same permission options, okay? So what is cool about folders is if you change the folder permission options, it automatically changes every file in that folder to match those, okay? So, for example, when I create screencastifys like this one, I don't create these just for my use, right? I'm automatically creating them to send them out to, at the very least, Marshall County, right? And most of the time, I just open them up to anybody. That way, when I put them on YouTube, they're just there for anybody to view. So all of my screencastify, I want automatically shared with, I just open it up to everybody, right? So if you notice in this folder, see this little person? That means I have changed the share settings to other people, okay? And what that does then, now every time I create a screencastify, I don't have to go in and individually change those permission settings, okay? So if you have instances where like every single thing you do out of a folder, you're having to go in and change those permissions, you can change the permissions on the folder. So you do that by just right-clicking on the folder, and then you can do share. And these share settings look exactly like they do on a doc. See, share with groups. And so I have this one set to automatically Marshall County Schools can view anything in that folder. It doesn't mean that they have access to my Google Drive. It doesn't mean that they have access to the folder. Honestly, it just means that all the files in there are ready to go when I send them. Okay, I think some people get confused about that. They think by giving that permission, people can somehow get in their Google Drive. That's not true. Okay, it just means that I don't have to go into every one of those files and change that sharing permission before I send it out. It's already done for me. So that is a game changer for me. It's a time saver. And it's so embarrassing, when you send something out to somebody, you're like, I don't have permission to open it. I'm like, oh, I forgot to change those permission settings. So that's a great way to do it. Just change it on the folder, and then everything inside the folder is ready to go to, at the very least, Marshall County users. You don't have to open it up to the world. That'll just save you a lot of time. So I highly recommend share settings on your folders. Everything in the folder then would match that. Super awesome. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is shared with me. Okay. So shared with me is any file or folder that someone has shared with you. And there are probably things in there that you don't even know are there, and that's okay. Shared with me, I think it's just kind of a mess. Mine is, at least. I don't do any sort of organization on shared with me. It's just all in there. It's organized by the order that you received it in. So here's everything. I've got folders in here, all kinds of files. I could go on and on with shared with me. It's just really messy. And here's the thing with shared with me. Google is super persnickety about ownership of files and sharing what doesn't belong to you, that kind of stuff. So keep this in mind. If it's shared with you, you're not the owner of it, okay? So you have fewer options as far as moving it and you sharing it out and things like that, okay? Because you're not technically the owner of it. So here are just a couple ways, not necessarily to get around that, but maybe to get around that. to make the file do whatever you want. So one thing you can do is you can make a copy of the file, right? And when you make a copy of it, put it into your Google Drive, and now that you are the owner of the copy of the file. Okay, so that's one way to do it. If you just want it in your Google Drive, you can't move it, okay? Because moving, you have to own it to move it. So you cannot move something from your shared with me to your Google Drive that says My Drive. But you can create a shortcut, which is, I showed you those folders in the beginning with a little arrow, because I don't own those folders. Someone shared them with me. They gave me all the permissions, like, here, you can use anything in here, but I'm still not the owner of them. Okay, so what you can do is, like, for example, this choice boards. I'm in a group and we all shared a bunch of stuff. Look, I have a bunch, everybody shared all their choice boards, right? Because that's what we do. So, but I don't own these. But what I can do, let's say that I love this one, I love everything about it, and I don't want it in here lost in my shared with me file. I want to move it to my drive so that I have quick access to it. So I'm going to right click on it, and notice, whoops, it's trying to help me. I'm going to right click. So notice, first of all, that see how a lot of things are dimmed. Okay, that's because I don't own it, right? And I know that. I can do some things with it. I can share it, which is new, right? That's because of sharing permissions. I can add a shortcut to my drive. That's what I recommend, and that's, what I'm showing you now. But it'll put it in your drive just like you want it, but it's going to put that little arrow on it that reminds you that you don't own the file. You can also add it to your starred. You can search within it. You can download it, that kind of thing. This is what I wanted to show you, though. So if you click Add Shortcut to Drive on this choice boards, you can choose the location. So in my drive, I would want it to go in my digital learning coach file. I probably have, see, I already have choice boards in here. I'll put it in there. I've got a bunch in there. And then I'm just going to go Add Shortcut. Only the owner can delete shortcuts added to this folder, and that's okay. Again, I'm not the owner, so if they actually deleted the folder and that they had shared with me, I wouldn't have access to it anymore because I don't own it. So I'm going to click Add Shortcut. Okay, so now notice also it's still here, right? Because I can't move it, but I added a shortcut. So now if I go to my drive, I put it in Digital Learning Coach. I already had a choice board folder. There it is. And look, there is that folder that I just moved. You can tell that because it's got that arrow. That means it's a shortcut from my shared with me. So pretty cool. And just kind of, I feel like just knowing kind of that information makes kind of understanding your Google Drive a little bit better. And it's just going to help you stay organized with it. Okay. The last thing I'm going to show you is, or not really show you, just encourage you to do, I guess, is beware of the untitled file. So you know that with any kind of a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or a Google Slide, you have to give it a name physically. If not, it's just going to be called untitled. So what I encourage you to do is just every now and then go through and clean up your untitled. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, remember, because they're alphabetical. And I actually do not have very many because I do this. So I don't have very many untitled files. So I only have one, actually. Out of all my untitles, I have one. So at this point, I need to decide, do I want to keep this, or if I do want to keep it, I need to rename it and put it in its right folder, right? Or if I don't want it anymore, I need to delete it. So I'm going to click on it, and here are my options. I can delete it. I can right click on it. I can rename it, and then I can move it to where it belongs. Okay. So again, it's one of those things you just need to do a little cleanup every now and then. I do it myself because I'll start like a Google Doc just to maybe take some notes, and then I don't need it anymore. So I just leave it and go off and do something else. Well, then that little untitled doc is sitting here. So I do come in every now and then and clean up my Google Drive. I just scroll down to the very bottom, see what untitled I have there. ask myself, okay, do I want to keep this? If I do, rename it, move it. If I don't, I delete it. Okay. So that'll just help you a lot with searching for stuff and cleaning up your Google Drive. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope you've learned some things that are going to help you out and maybe understand your Google Drive a little better. I really hope you make it the center of all things Google. Remember that you can start opening your docs and opening your slides from the folder that they already belong in. Remember that you can add it to your startup. Remember that you have your waffle here that you can go to. Your starred folder is great. Do your folder system. You can add numbers to it. So many great things that'll just help you stay really, really organized. So if you need any help with this, let me know. I'm happy to help you get organized for the first time, and good luck.